All right. Well, I believe we have reached the bottom of the hour, and people should be slowly trickling in. I'm gonna give it 1 second just to make sure that everything is working. Let me hit present and hopefully, yeah, okay. My screen looks good. All right. Well, I will get going, and hopefully, as people come in, we'll go from there. I will say that please, everybody, feel free to ask questions in the QA tab. That's much more interesting, I think, to everybody than watching slides endlessly. So what I'm going to be talking about is, I think both Tintri and Eric and Frizo have been kind of alluding to this um, initial push for everybody to go to the cloud and to use the cloud, and then everybody realized, but hold on, the cloud is great, but maybe it doesn't make sense for everything. I love a good analogy, and it's kind of like using a hammer when all you need is maybe a wrench. And I'm going to talk about how we Diamanti see this and how we are looking to solve this kind of problem, and why we think it's a solvable problem, but also be an important problem to look at and discuss, and get ahead of the competition, if you will. All right. So just kind of a little bit of context around some of these things. Obviously, Kubernetes is still considered a young technology, but at the same time, it has been market-wise, it has been growing exponentially over the last 3 years. I don't think I have this in the slides, but it's a great tidbit. KubeCon in pre-corona, but the last KubeCon in 2019 was attended by, I believe, 12,000 people. And in 2017, it was only attended by 2,000 people. So that is a, order of magnitude difference in how popular the idea of containers and the problems that they solve have become as as everything has been maturing, as the technology has been maturing. And CNCF is kind of a big thing. I'm going to talk about CNCF kind of a little bit throughout what I'm presenting. But they are the incubator of all of the ideas around cloud native and what does it mean to be cloud native, and what projects tie and connect all of the different services and new markets that emerge from utilizing containers and building products around containers and building services around containers. And then as I opened up, I said, everybody jumped on the new digital transformation of cloud native, and I'm going to go to the cloud. And there's a bunch of early adopters, right? A bunch of people jumped on AWS deals or Google Cloud deals or Azure deals. And I'm like, I'm going to move absolutely everything out to the cloud. And what most people that I speak to, or most people that I do work with directly, discovered, maybe not relatively quickly, but quickly enough, is that, as I said, not every problem is a hammer problem. Some problems are wrench problems. Some problems are screwdriver problems. And jumping into a single provider just opens you up for a lot of problems and a lot of issues, unforeseen issues, whenever it comes to data stewardship, performance, features that they offer or may not offer, pricing, right? Just because you're locked in for 2 years at some really nice entry price doesn't mean that all of a sudden your cloud provider now doesn't sky up the price of services they provide, or they introduce new and interesting services that matter to you that were missing, and now you have to pay full price for those. So there is a reason that the estimated cap for the cloud market is 172 billion. It's like almost 3x what it was, even 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So, cloud is great. Cloud is where we are headed, whether we want to or not. But single cloud is maybe not the greatest idea if you are a established big enterprise. If you're a mom and pop shop, the cloud is fantastic. It's nice and agile. You don't have to do anything. But when you're in an established enterprise that is going through the motions to improve their processes and improve their efficiency and everything else, single cloud providers start throwing in some wrenches that you need to dodge. And then there's data, right? Moving data, accessing data, performance of your data. Now, all of those bits are very, very important. And just frankly, data was not at the forefront of any of the cloud providers until very recently. Like I would call it in the last 2 years. And Corona definitely accelerated that as more and more people clamor to different services, and all of a sudden it was like very apparent that the cloud providers were just not ready to provide high efficiency and high speed data supplies and data and endpoints to all of their great other services. And this is where I'll talk about it. We have a great comparison against AWS. AWS released new NVMe based storage and everything else, and it costs an arm and a leg in order to access it, which does not really make for an efficient use of dollars and time. So I've been alluding to all of this. Any new journey, no matter how much you plan and how much you prepare and how much you want to be better at, there is for sure chaos that inevitably happens. I just saw the Q&A. I'm going to interrupt myself for a second. In the Q&A window, somebody asked where the money figures came from. Looking through Gartner reports, more or less, and looking through just general publications around the cloud markets, I can not dig down, but I can hunt down the original sources if you're interested, and we can connect later and I can share those. I don't have them on hand right now. But any journey is inevitable to have chaos there, and especially now as things have broken down into microservices and you've broken down into individual components, there is a space of, okay, I now have to access, instead of a single vendor, even within the big three's cloud infrastructure, you access multiple vendors in order to piece together what before was, I'm going to get some Cisco switches, I'm going to get some servers, plug them in, and away I go and do my thing. So multi-vendors, support, contracts, all of that becomes tougher to manage, right? As I said, there's, the whole idea of hybrid cloud is now emerging as that single vendor, not a good idea, but how do I go to multiple clouds? How does my data travel from one cloud to the other? As obviously each individual cloud provider is looking to specifically kind of close you into their ecosystem. And they want you to use their services, so they create very specific features that if you marry yourself to them, you are, as much as you want to think that you're cloud agnostic, you will have to continue using that particular cloud service. So as I already mentioned, data, especially as you start thinking about how I'm going to move data, how I'm going to back up data, how am I going to restore data, even within a single cloud provider, those are very expensive operations. money-wise, and they're features that get charged for a lot. So that prohibits the whole idea of hybrid cloud. And this is where what we do starts coming into the picture. We have essentially two layers to solving this problem of hybrid cloud, and how do I do this with our Spectra and Ultima layers. And Spectra is your kind of global UI panel. You can run clusters on AWS, you can run clusters on Azure, you can run clusters on Google, you can run clusters in your data center. You can run clusters up in the edge under the tower. You can have rugged boxes running Kubernetes and doing 5G or whatever you want them to do. But having the ability to see all of that infrastructure and create the RBAC, the role-based access to it, is super, super important, and that's what's missing. And without having that global console that shows you everything, there's no way to say that you can do anything hybrid, because if I'm having to jump from the AWS's console to Azure's console to do anything, it defeats the purpose, right? Then what Ultima is, it solves the data portability and data access a problem that I was mentioning. There is no existing way to plumb data from AWS to Azure, or take data from a Google Cloud cluster and shift it over to AWS. We actually provide that with our Ultima layer and kind of connect all of the pieces, and irrelevant of where your infrastructure may be running, glue it all together and allow you to actually have seamless block for block replication between different services, on different clouds and different locations, do failover, do quality of service lockups on data, and so forth. So there is a slight even breakdown of this, just like Nitro. AWS Nitro is a big player at the moment. It's probably the first player of the big three to offer quote unquote hardware acceleration. We have actually had a Nitro competitor before Nitro was even in a thought in AWS's mind. You also might have heard of VMware's Manta Ray with their SmartNIC. Again, we have had this since the company's inception, and that's our hardware on the left. If you have on-prem boxes and you need to accelerate them, you need to get super low latencies, all of those things, you can just buy the cards and retrofit your hardware and have it be immediately cloud native and immediately accessible in the global console stuff that we were discussing earlier in Spectra, and benefit from those accelerations. Or you can run Ultima as just a complete software glue, if you will. You connect the provided storage by a cloud provider or the storage that you have on hand and you've already paid for, and you get not as high of a performance boost as you would with obviously a hardware offload, but you still have a performance boost. You get all of the data and DR and HA bits that are missing generally or are extra paid for services in any of the cloud providers. But more importantly, you get the portability of your data. Being able to move and jump, take a cluster and say failover from AWS to GCP and have that happen in seconds to minutes, depending on the size of the cluster. Very, 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 very beneficial, especially when you're building large deployments and when you're building large instances of these things. And then Spectra at the end combines it all, whether you're using hardware offload, whether you're using our software deployment, you marry it all under one umbrella, and your end users just have to know one UI and just say and care about, I want my application to run. That is it. That's what you want your end users to care about, right? Like I don't care. They shouldn't care whether it runs in the cloud or whether it runs on premise or whether it runs in the machine under their desk, right? On the other hand, the operators of all of these systems care about is like, okay, well, how am I going to make sure that I have the same experience deploying the application and managing that application and delegating access to that application across multiple clouds, across multiple instances, across multiple use cases of that data. And that's kind of where Spectra combines to give you that peace of mind, if you will. So data-wise, right? I kind of been talking about it, but what we do with Ultima, whether you're using the hardware accelerated version of it or you're using the software accelerated version of it, we are layering a bunch of features all within it in order to be able to accomplish what we're talking about, with the ability to do snapshots of volumes, for example. If I'm going to use this because I used to do this a lot. If you've ever upgraded, say, Splunk from one version to another, Splunk is now on version 8, and you would think that in 8 versions they would figure out how to do reversions of upgrades, and that has not happened. So if you upgrade from, say, 5 to 6, and 6 just explodes and you no longer have a functioning Splunk environment, you have to basically enter break fix mode. With snapshots, I can just revert in 1 second and I'm back on 5, and away I go. Encryption, huge important thing, right? Data at rest, provided out of the box, whether you use encrypted drives or you use a software solution, baked in right there. You don't have to worry about it. Very important. Then we get into the next layer of all of this thing, and that's mirroring, right? Being able to mirror synchronously or asynchronously data between myself and multiple nodes within my zone or multiple clusters within my region, or multiple instances of different clusters in different cloud providers, all at the same time. Being able to push that data and give you that flexibility, very important. And then finally, we have the kind of the ability to say, okay, you know what? AWS has been charging me way too much to run all of this infrastructure. We're abandoning our AWS accounts, and I still need to move my data, move all of my Kubernetes objects, move everything off to GCP or Azure or on-prem. Being able to just click a button and do that without having to worry about anything else, and knowing that you have perfect copy of your data and everything continues to run as soon as it migrates, highly desired and important. All right, so just kind of a quick cost breakdown, since I've been talking about this. This is a published study. I'm not just pulling these out of thin air. We were just doing a comparison of what is it like to run AWS with Nitro enabled, with our software, with Ultima running on top, versus running AWS instance with their EBS, which is their provisioned IOPS and is their version of Ultima software. And just from a cost perspective, I mean, you can see it is astronomical, right? About $9,000 versus almost $46,000 per month per instance is crazy to me. I don't have it here, but we also are the performance boost that you see of the EBS solution versus using Ultima is almost 3x. So you get 3 times the performance for a fraction of the cost. All right. So to tie it all together from a technical perspective, and why I was started at the top with the whole CNCF certification, right? And CNCF being the Cloud Native Foundation, being the big overseer and making sure that everybody's certified that says that they're using Kubernetes, starts kind of coming into the picture here. On the surface, anybody that you consume Kubernetes from that is CNCF certified, you can take what you have there object-wise, say your applications, and take it to another cluster. So you can take what's in EKS and take it to GKE or take it to AKS. Doesn't matter. It should work. Where things get into the kind of the problem is if you're married to certain services in certain service provider or cloud providers. And what we do is we just kind of abstract that within Spectra, where you still get to use kube control if you need to. We obviously have our own CLI tooling in order to access the APIs that we expose, or you can just go through the UI. But as far as the end user is concerned, they use kube control today or Helm or whatever it may be. They will continue to use it tomorrow, regardless of where their service lives, and they don't have to know anything about any of the kind of underlying infrastructure. And down at the bottom, for those curious, the way we plug into for data and network is through our own CSI and CNI plugins, which is the Kubernetes approved API endpoints that we, just expose to the end user. And I believe we have about 5 minutes left. That was it. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if there's any questions. And if you have any questions, you can throw them in the Q&A or the chat. Either one works. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any questions, so I think at this point we can probably end the session then. Lee, I don't know if you're still on. I am unsure if we can do that or if I just need to hang out in here. And I believe the next keynote is at the top of the hour in about 5 minutes. So you can head to the main stage.